Hello there, and welcome to Sleepy Cosmos channel. Tonight we ask a question that sounds enormous, and yet it wants to be held very lightly. Could there really be life hiding on Titan, out past Saturn's rings, under a sky the color of steeped tea? It is a question with no answer waiting at the end of it, only a kind of listening. The way you might glance up at a neighbor's window at dusk, noticing a warm light behind the curtains, and wondering, without needing to knock, whether someone is home. That is the thread I want to give you tonight. A lantern that might already be lit behind orange curtains, somewhere so far away that its light will never quite reach us. And somewhere so near, on the small orange moon riding at Saturn's shoulder, that we have already brushed our fingertips against its glow. We have 4 regions to drift through tonight, and you do not need to remember a single one of them. First, we arrive at Titan itself, easing down through that orange veil, the haze that wraps the whole moon like a curtain nobody has ever fully drawn back. Then, we wander the shores of another rain, where methane weather drifts across cold seas and the ground looks, for a strange and comforting moment, almost like home. After that comes the lantern question itself, the hidden ocean folded beneath the ice, the odd chemistry stirring in the dark, and whether something down there might already be alive. And last, we sit with the patient watchers, the humans and machines who spent decades easing the curtains apart, one photograph, one signal, one radar sweep at a time, so that we could someday lie here, tonight, and imagine it all without lifting a finger. 4 regions, and you can let all 4 go, because I will carry them for you. Before we drift off together, if this kind of night has ever helped you rest, a like or a subscribe helps the channel reach others who are also lying awake, staring at some ceiling, wanting a longer way down. But that is for later or never. It changes nothing about what happens next. There is nothing here to hold on to. No test at the end, no facts to keep. Let your shoulders ease down into whatever is holding you right now. Let your jaw loosen. Let your hands go heavy at your sides. Settle in. Let's begin. Let your breath settle, and let the rest of your body settle with it, because there is nowhere to be tonight except right here, drifting. Picture yourself lifted just slightly off the surface of everything, off the mattress, off the weight of the day, and carried outward, past the moon you already know, past the red dust of Mars, out toward the wide gold rings that circle Saturn like a held breath. You are not falling toward anything. You are floating toward it, the way a leaf floats toward the far bank of a river, patient and unbothered by the current beneath it. There is no rush built into this kind of travel. The stars do not blur past you as they might in a film about speed. They simply hold their places while you move among them, the whole journey closer to a long, unhurried walk than to any kind of flight. Saturn grows in the dark ahead of you, banded and pale, its rings turning so slowly that if you watched for 100 lifetimes, you would still call the motion still. 60 and more moons keep it company out here, some no larger than a hill, tumbling and irregular, catching sunlight in odd, uneven glints. You pass them the way you might pass unlit houses on an unfamiliar street, unremarkable, forgettable, each one dark and bare, and asking nothing of your attention. And then, among them, one world waits with its light already low and warm, the way a single house waits at the end of that street, after the sun has gone down, and only its own lamps remain lit, distinguishing itself from every dark and silent neighbor simply by having something to hide behind glass. This is Titan. Of all the moons drifting through our solar system, and there are hundreds of them, icy and cratered and bare, Titan is the only one wrapped in a true atmosphere, thick enough to hide every detail of the ground beneath it. From out here, from this safe and unhurried distance, Titan does not look like a landscape. It looks like a single, seamless sphere of soft orange. No oceans visible, no mountains, no craters, nothing but a smooth and glowing haze, the color of a low fire seen through fog. It is strange, if you let yourself notice it slowly, how such a plain-looking thing can feel so full. There is nothing to see, and somehow that is exactly the feeling of standing at the end of a long street at night, looking at the one house whose windows are covered rather than dark, curtains drawn, warm color leaking faintly through the fabric, telling you a light is on inside without ever showing you the room. That is the shape of tonight's question, and you do not need to answer it to rest in it. Could there really be life hiding on Titan? Say it to yourself the way you might wonder, half asleep, whether the neighbors are still awake, not urgently, not as a puzzle to solve before you can close your eyes, but as a small warm curiosity that keeps you gently company. And here is the paradox worth holding. The way you might hold a smooth stone in your palm without needing to turn it over, Titan hides everything about itself, every river, every shoreline, every grain of its ground, behind that orange veil, and it is precisely because it hides so completely that it becomes so easy to imagine something hidden there. A world with nothing to conceal would show you empty rock and settle the question at a glance. A world wrapped this thoroughly in curtains is, by its very nature, a world where a lantern could be lit and you would have no way of knowing, not from here, not yet. The mystery is not a flaw in our view of Titan. The curtains are the reason the question exists at all. Let the house at the end of the street settle into you as an image you can return to all night, because that is what Titan is going to be for the next while. Not a distant ball of gas and ice with a catalog number, but a house you are walking towards slowly, down a long, quiet street, under a sky that is somebody else's sky. Every window is the same warm orange, every curtain is drawn the same way, and behind one of them, maybe, something is awake. Before we go any closer, let the size of this house register the way a house's size registers when you first see it from the road, larger than you expected, standing there with a kind of unhurried presence. Titan is bigger than the planet Mercury. Let that sit for a moment, without needing to be dramatic about it. A moon, orbiting not a star, but a planet, and yet larger than one of the 8 true planets of our solar system, larger than the smallest of the worlds that circle the sun on their own private paths. It is the second largest moon anywhere in our solar system, so substantial that if it circled the sun on its own, instead of trailing along beside Saturn, almost no one would hesitate to call it a planet in its own right. Its own gravity is strong enough to hold this whole heavy blanket of atmosphere close. The way a good coat holds warmth against a body, nothing about this house is flimsy. Nothing about it is a small, forgettable structure at the end of a minor lane. And the street it stands on is a long one indeed. Titan rides along with Saturn at a distance of roughly 1.5 billion kilometers from the Sun, so far that the Sun itself becomes little more than a bright point of light. So far that the whole neighborhood out here moves at a slower, more patient pace than the one we know at home, where a single lap around the Sun already takes Saturn, and Titan with it. Very nearly 30 years of our own. It was found, long ago, as nothing more than a faint companion besides Saturn's brightness, a small steady light that turned out, on closer looking, to be circling the giant planet rather than merely sitting near it, a moon discovered in the act of orbiting, the first hint that Saturn kept close company, the first porch light noticed on a street that had, until then, seemed to belong to Saturn alone. You do not need to hold any of these numbers tightly. Let them drift past you the way streetlights drift past a car window at night, each one bright for a moment, and then gone, leaving only a general sense of scale, of distance, of a world large enough and far enough to deserve its own quiet mythology. What matters more, right now, is the picture. A house at the end of a very long street, larger than you first assumed, its windows glowing the same steady orange from every angle you approach it, no flicker, no variation, as if the curtains themselves were part of the architecture rather than something added afterward. And that is the detail that should catch your attention as you drift nearer, the detail worth lingering on before we go any further into the night. The color does not change. There is no glimpse of anything moving behind the glow, no shift in brightness as clouds might pass a lamp, nothing but an even, featureless orange stretched over the whole moon like fabric pulled taut. From orbit, from the vantage of every spacecraft that has ever passed this way, Titan offers the same smooth face every time. It is less like looking at a window and more like looking at the curtain itself, close enough now that you can almost feel its texture. Almost imagine reaching out to touch the material that keeps this entire world's ground a secret. So let yourself lean in, unhurried, the way you'd lean toward a warmly lit window on a cold night, without meaning to trespass, only to understand what you're looking at. Notice how the closer you drift, the less the orange looks like a single flat color, and the more it begins to show a kind of depth to it, a faint suggestion of layers stacked one behind another. The way a heavy curtain shows its folds only once you are near enough to stop mistaking it for a wall. There is texture here, even if there is still no way to see through it. That alone is worth resting on for a moment. An entire moon, larger than a planet, and not one photograph taken from above has ever shown its ground directly. Not its rivers, not its shorelines, nothing but this same patient, glowing weave. What is this veil actually made of? Not glass, not stone, not any covering you could name from a street back home. Something stranger, something drifting and layered and built, we'll find, out of the sky's own quiet chemistry, thread by thread, the way real curtains are woven one pass of the shuttle at a time. One fiber laid gently over the last, until the fabric holds. Let your curiosity settle into that softness, unrushed, because we are going to look very closely at the fabric of this world next, closely enough to see what it's made from, and closely enough, perhaps, to understand why a light behind it could still be so easy to imagine, and so hard from here to ever quite rule out. The street is long, and the house is patient, and it has been waiting, orange and quiet, for a very long time. There is no need to hurry toward its answer. We simply move a little nearer, the way you might, on some other night, drift a few steps closer to a window before deciding whether to knock. So lean closer if you like, the way you'd lean toward a window you already know is curtained, not expecting to see through it, only wanting to feel how close you can rest against the glass. What drapes Titan is air before it is anything else, a true atmosphere, thicker in its way than our own, made mostly of nitrogen, the same unremarkable gas that fills 4 out of every 5 breaths you have ever taken without noticing. You have been breathing this element your whole life and never once thanked it for its patience. Titan simply has more of it and holds it closer, so that its blanket of nitrogen presses down with about 1.5 times the weight of Earth's own sky. Imagine a comforter pulled up not to your shoulders but past your chin, tucked snugly along every edge of the bed, heavier than the one you sleep under, and somehow no less easy to rest beneath. That is the first fact worth carrying into the dark. This distant moon is wrapped in more sky than we are, not less, and what looks from far away like secrecy is really only abundance, a curtain sewn from extra cloth. But nitrogen alone would be clear, and Titan's veil is not clear. It is orange, a low warm color with no seams and no shapes in it. The kind of orange you might see through your own eyelids on a bright afternoon when you have decided, wisely, to simply keep them closed. That color is where the chemistry begins. High above the moon's frozen fields, sunlight, thin sunlight, 100 times fainter than the sunlight resting on your own skin right now, but sunlight all the same, reaches a small fraction of methane drifting in the upper air and gently takes it apart. Ultraviolet light does this slowly, patiently, breathing distant photons into methane molecules until their bonds loosen and let go. The pieces that come free do not vanish. They find each other again in new arrangements, joining into longer chains, heavier molecules, richer knots of carbon and hydrogen than the simple gas they started as. Chemists call these tholins, a word borrowed from an old Greek term for something muddy, something smeared. But up in Titan's high air, this muddiness is closer to lacework than to mud. Each tholin particle is smaller than anything you could ever hope to see. A fleck of organic matter drifting the way a single mote of dust drifts through a shaft of afternoon light in a quiet room. Except that here there are uncountable trillions of them, enough to gather into a haze that no eyesight, and for a long while no camera, could see past. This is the fabric of the curtains themselves. Not fabric in the sense of something woven on a loom, but fabric in the truer, older sense, threads laid one against another, again and again, until what began as scattered fibers becomes something that can hold a shape, block a light, keep a room its own. Each tholin particle is one thread. There are more of them above Titan than there are stars in every galaxy you have ever been shown a picture of, and they hang there, layer upon layer, catching the low sunlight and scattering it back in that single unbroken shade of orange until the entire moon looks, from the outside, like a lantern with its glass-fogged amber, or like a house glimpsed from the end of a long street where every window has been hung with the same heavy, warm-colored drape. You cannot see in. From orbit, from a passing spacecraft, from Earth itself with our best and steadiest telescopes, the surface simply is not there. Only that soft, seamless orange, giving nothing away, offering no gap in the weave to peer through. And here is the part worth resting on, the part that turns a barrier into an invitation instead of a wall. This haze is not emptiness pretending to be something. It is not fog in the sense of absence, water borrowed from a lake and lifted into shapelessness. It is chemistry, actual matter, actual architecture at the smallest scale, carbon strung to hydrogen, strung to nitrogen in the same patient. Faithful arrangements that, on a warmer world with liquid water pooling at the bottom of its sky instead of near the top, once leaned together into the first fragile molecules of something alive. The very ingredients laboratories on Earth have spent decades trying to recreate in glass flasks and spark chambers, hoping to sketch out how life might have begun here. Those ingredients are already adrift above Titan, in falling amounts you could weigh in tons, made fresh every single day by sunlight doing slow work on methane, and they have been falling for longer than there have been eyes anywhere in this solar system to watch them fall. Let yourself picture it slowly, the way you might picture snow before sleep, not to count each flake, but to feel the hush of the whole scene settling. Titan's tholins drift down from the high atmosphere, the way snow drifts down over a sleeping town, except unhurried past anything snow could manage, taking not minutes, but years to complete their fall through that dense, buoyant, nitrogen-heavy air. A particle born near the top of the haze may spend a season, or several, sinking toward the ground below, tumbling so slowly that the word falling almost feels too urgent for it. Drifting is nearer the truth. Drifting the way a single leaf sometimes seems to hang in still air before it finally settles, in no rush at all to arrive. Over the moon's long history, this unhurried snowfall has built up layers of organic material across the surface, dunes and plains of it, dark and soft and endlessly patient. An entire landscape furnished, thread by thread, by the same curtains that hide it from view. The veil does not simply cover Titan. In a very real sense, the veil made half the room behind it. The same slow chemistry that paints the sky also floors the house. So when you ask what these curtains are woven from, the honest answer is, from the raw material of biology itself, spun continuously out of sunlight and one simple humble gas, thread joining thread, until an entire moon wears a color no other world in this solar system wears. It is not the color of danger. Notice that. And let the noticing loosen your shoulders a little. It is closer to the color of a lamp left burning low in a room down the hall. The kind of light that tells you someone is home without needing to tell you anything more than that. You do not have to know yet whether anyone is standing near that lamp. For now, it is enough to know the curtains themselves are made of promise, carbon-rich, nitrogen-rich, endlessly falling, endlessly building the floor of a hidden house. There is a strange comfort, too, in how ordinary the beginning of all this really is. Nothing about tholins requires anything exotic. No rare element found only in one corner of the galaxy. No impossible temperature. No violent event to set the process going. Only nitrogen, which Titan has in abundance, and methane, which seeps up from below in quantities small enough to sound almost modest, and sunlight, arriving faint but unfailing, one dim day after another, for 4.5 billion years running. Chemistry this patient does not need drama. It only needs time. And Titan has never once been in short supply of that. Every hour that passes overhead, more methane rises, more ultraviolet light finds it. More of those tiny orange threads are spun and released to drift downward into the great, slow blizzard that has been falling, without pause, since long before the first curious eye on Earth ever tilted a lens toward Saturn's flank. You are not imagining an event. You are imagining a season that has never ended. It may help, too, to remember what this haze is not, if only so the color settles into you the right way. It is not smoke, though people sometimes reach for that word, because smoke speaks of fire and fire speaks of urgency, and there is no urgency here at all. It is not poison fog, though the molecules inside it would mean nothing kind to human lungs. But nothing here is reaching for your lungs. Nothing is drifting toward you. Nothing is anything other than exactly where it has always been, 1.5 billion kilometers away, tucked behind its own glass, warmed by its own low light. Let the orange be only what it is, a curtain thick with true substance, hung across a window you were never going to open tonight anyway. You are only resting your forehead near the pane, feeling the faint warmth of a room you cannot yet see into, content for now simply to know the fabric is real. And a house like that, wrapped this heavily, this warmly, cannot simply sit still and silent behind its drapes. Cloth like this moves. Somewhere behind that woven orange fabric, in the thick unseen air below the haze, something is stirring the room. A season turning, perhaps, or a draft finding its way along a windowsill, or something softer still, moving the curtains themselves very slightly from the inside, the way fabric answers a wind you cannot see but can somehow tell, just by watching the fold of it, is there. What? You might begin to wonder as your eyes grow heavier. What kind of weather could possibly move behind curtains woven this thick and this old? And if the curtains themselves are woven from the same threads that life is made of, then it is only natural to wonder what moves behind them. Fabric like that does not hang still. It breathes. It shifts with the hours and the seasons, the way any curtain stirs when a house is lived in. And so we let our attention drift upward now, past the orange weave, into the folds and currents where Titan keeps its weather. Because Titan has weather, not a poetic weather, not a metaphor stretched thin to make a strange moon feel familiar, an actual working weather system, the only one anywhere else in this solar system that echoes our own so closely you could almost mistake its logic for home. Where Earth's sky lifts water into clouds and lets it fall again as rain, Titan lifts methane. High above that hydrocarbon sand and those ice-hard hills, methane clouds gather in pale drifts, catching what little sunlight filters down through the haze, and when they grow heavy enough, they let go. It rains on Titan. Actually rains, drops of liquid methane, forming somewhere in that cold upper air and beginning their long fall toward the ground. And here the story takes on a texture unlike anything above your own head tonight. Because Titan's gravity is so much lighter than Earth's, barely a seventh of what holds you into your bed right now, that nothing falls in a hurry there. A methane raindrop does not rush downward the way rain does here, needled and quick against a window. It drifts. It takes its time, cushioned by a lower pull and a thicker air, so that if you could stand beneath that sky and watch one drop begin its journey from cloud to ground, you would watch it hang in the air far longer than instinct expects, moving with the unhurried patience of something that has nowhere urgent to be. Slower than snow falls here. A rain with all the time in the world. For a long while, all we had of this was inference, numbers on a page suggesting a cycle must exist somewhere behind that veil, because the chemistry demanded it, and the shapes on the ground seemed to confirm it. Then, one ordinary orbit. The cameras caught the veil itself change. A dark smear spread low across the equator, thousands of kilometers wide, appearing where the ground had been pale and dry only weeks before, the unmistakable stain of a surface freshly wet, evidence of an actual storm that had rolled through and let its rain fall while nobody was watching, except a spacecraft patiently circling far above. It faded again over the following weeks, drying back toward its ordinary hue, the way a pavement dries after a passing shower. Except this drying took the better part of a season to finish, because everything there moves at Titan's own unhurried tempo. Proof, at last, that the curtains were not simply a painted backdrop. Something behind them had actually rained. And because it is real weather, it keeps real time, not the quick turning of days you know, but a season measured against Saturn itself. Because Titan rides along in Saturn's orbit, and Saturn takes 29.5 of our years to complete one lap around the Sun, which means each of Titan's seasons is stretched taut across years, not months, so that a single spring there might outlast your own childhood. A single winter might outlast a decade of ordinary living. Titan's storms do not arrive and pass in an afternoon the way a summer squall does here. They gather across seasons that are themselves the length of small lifetimes, vast lingering systems that build somewhere in that thick nitrogen air and then, in their own patient time, let their methane down onto the landscape below. Imagine a storm so unhurried it could watch you grow up. That is closer to the rhythm behind Titan's curtains than anything the sky above you tonight has ever shown. Watch that rhythm across a whole Saturnian year, and a pattern emerges. One hemisphere handing weather to the other, the way a house passes warmth from one room to the next as the sun moves around it. Through the long southern summer, the clouds gathered low, near the pole tipped toward whatever thin sunlight reached that far, and the seas of that hemisphere lay open to a sky that, in its own patient fashion, could yet stir and darken and let something down. As the decades-long year turned, that light shifted north, and the clouds began following it, drifting pole to pole across a span of time that would swallow most of a human life twice over. A single watcher could spend an entire career studying Titan and see, at most, one changing of this guard. The moon keeps its own clock, and it does not consult ours. Between those lingering storms, when the rain has had its say and moved on, the wind takes over, and it too works at a pace that feels almost tender toward the ground it shapes. Along Titan's equator, where the air runs driest and the surface lies flattest, lazy winds gather grains of dark hydrocarbon sand. Not silica sand like the pale beaches you might picture, but something darker, waxier, made from the same organic haze that paints the whole moon orange, and over centuries they sculpt that sand into dunes. Long parallel ridges, hundreds of kilometers in places, rippling across the equatorial belt like the sky itself had reached down and smoothed the ground with slow, deliberate strokes. Seen from above, through the patient radar eyes that would eventually learn to look past the haze, these dunes resemble the wind-carved deserts you might picture on Earth. Except every grain within them is something closer to soot than stone, and every ridge was shaped not by an afternoon breeze, but by winds so unhurried, so low and faint against the ground, that only centuries of steady work could raise anything from them at all. If you could stand at the crest of one of those ridges, low gravity making every step feel half a held breath, half a small leap, the dune would rise beside you, not sharp and dry the way desert sand rises here, but rounded, almost soft-edged, the way a duvet rounds when it has been left undisturbed all night. The air moving over it would not sting your face the way a dry wind stings here. Titan's atmosphere is heavier, 4 times denser than the air you are breathing right now, so even a modest breeze there carries a slow, deliberate push, more like being nudged by something patient than being scoured by something sharp. It is a wind you could lean into and trust to hold you upright, rather than one that fights you for every step. Cloud, then rain, then wind carving what the rain has dampened, a full cycle, turning and returning, mirroring the water cycle that quietly rules the world outside your window even now. Evaporation and cloud and fall and flow. Except here, every part of it wears a different coat. Not water lifted by sunlight and pulled back down by gravity into puddles and rivers and seas, but methane, doing the very same dance in a colder key, on a world where the physics bends everything slower and gentler than it bends here. And that is the quiet marvel worth resting on for a moment before we go further. Among every world we have ever turned our instruments toward, among every moon and planet in this whole vast dark, Titan stands alone. The only other place we know of where rain actually falls from a real sky, crosses real distance, and lands somewhere it can pool. Not vapor that vanishes, not frost that only clings and stays. Rain that gathers into standing liquid, the way rain does here, the way it always has, since long before there were windows for anyone to watch it through. So let the mind follow just one drop now, if it likes, one imagined bead of methane beginning its lingering fall from a pale cloud somewhere above that dune-rippled equator, or somewhere higher yet, over ground that no eye from here has ever traced by hand. Let it drift the way Titan's air lets everything drift, unhurried, held rather than dropped, taking in the last violet light before it slips below the orange haze for good. It passes through layers of that woven, tholin-tinted sky, through smog thick with the raw makings of life, carrying some small trace of that chemistry down with it as it falls. It has nowhere to be, and no reason to hurry getting there. Beneath it, past the dunes, past the ice-hard hills waiting somewhere out of sight, the ground is already sloping gently downward, carved by countless other drops that made this same unhurried journey long before it, each one finding the same low paths, the same certain direction, the way water everywhere eventually finds its way home. And home, on Titan, is a shoreline, dark, still, waiting at the bottom of the haze. Exactly where our one small drop is headed now, and exactly where we will follow it next, past the last fold of the curtain, into the seas that lie behind it. And that one imagined raindrop, having fallen for what would feel to you like 10 unhurried minutes in Titan's thick air, does not vanish when it lands. It joins something. It becomes part of a floor you could almost stand beside, if standing beside such a thing were a safe idea, which, from here, from this distance, from the warm dark of wherever you are curled tonight, it entirely is. Follow it down, past the last orange wisp of haze, past the dune lines you'll walk in your mind later, down to where the ground simply stops being ground and starts being surface. Flat and dark and holding light the way a held breath holds stillness. This is the room behind the curtains. This is where the house at the end of the street keeps its deepest furniture, and its name, when scientists finally gave it one, was borrowed fittingly from myth, Kraken Mare, the Sea of the Kraken, though nothing there needs a monster to be worth wondering about. Beside it, smaller but no less real, lie Ligeia Mare and Ontario Lacus, named for a lake back home as if someone, charting this far-off shoreline, felt a small ache of recognition and reached for a familiar word to hold on to. Say the size out loud in your mind, slowly, and let it rest there. Kraken Mare alone could swallow the 5 great lakes of Earth and still have room along its edges. It is not a puddle. It is not a curiosity. It is a sea, by any honest definition, a body of liquid large enough to have its own tides, its own coastline, its own weather feeding into it from above. And yet, it is nothing like the seas you have swum in or watched from a warm shore. Its temperature sits at -179 degrees Celsius, a cold so complete that water itself, on Titan, is not liquid at all but stone-hard bedrock lining the basin like the walls of the room. What fills the basin instead is methane and ethane, liquid at last, because this far from the sun, this deep into the freezer of the outer solar system, they behave the way water behaves at home, pooling, flowing, holding a shape, catching what dim light reaches down to them. It is, as far as every mission and every instrument has ever found, the only standing surface liquid known anywhere beyond Earth. Not ice, not vapor, an actual sea, on an actual shoreline, under an actual sky, and it is astonishingly still. When the Cassini spacecraft turned its radar down through the haze toward Kraken Mare, Hunting for the glitter and scatter that choppy water throws back, it found almost nothing. A surface so close to flat that the waves rising and falling across it measured only millimeters, smaller than the width of a fingernail, smaller than the ripple a held breath makes on the surface of a cup of tea. Scientists had to build new methods just to detect motion that faint. Picture that for a moment, a sea larger than anything on Earth, moved by winds and tides and the slow drag of an outer moon around a giant planet, and still it lies nearly mirror smooth, night after Titan night, holding whatever light reaches it without breaking that light apart. This is the stillness of the room behind the curtains, not the emptiness of a place with nothing in it, but the particular hush of a room kept so undisturbed that if a lantern were ever lit inside, its reflection would not scatter or shatter across the surface. It would simply sit there, whole, doubled, waiting to be seen. That is the frame worth holding on to tonight. The reason these seas matter beyond their size or their cold, they are dark rooms. And dark rooms are exactly where a single small light would show itself first and most clearly. If there is chemistry down there doing something we would recognize as alive, not proven, not yet, only imagined as a kind and patient possibility, this is the room it would be doing it in. Kraken Mari's basin, tens of thousands of square kilometers of liquid resting under a sky 100 times as thick as ours, has never yet caught a spacecraft's landing, never yet felt a probe's gentle splash. We have only ever seen it from above, through radar, the way you might guess at a room's furniture from the silhouette it throws against curtained glass. Every measurement so far tells us the same thing: patient, undisturbed, cold beyond imagining, and holding still enough that any light within it would carry. Radar can do more than measure stillness, though. And when scientists sent that same radar deeper into Kraken Mare, bouncing it off the seafloor and timing its return, they found depths reaching over 300 meters in places, deep enough to hide whatever wants hiding, deep enough that a room this size could hold its own kind of night even at Titan's own version of noon. And the liquid itself carries texture the way water never quite does, denser in ethane near some shores, richer in methane in others, layered the way a quiet house settles into different temperatures room by room, warmer air pooling near a fire, cooler air gathering by a window. Beneath the visible surface, instruments have hinted at something almost like sediment, fine dark material drifting down from the hazy sky above and settling slowly onto the seafloor across eons, the same tholins that paint the atmosphere orange now, resting in gentle drifts on a floor no human eye has ever seen directly. It is, in its own cold way, a kind of sedimentary memory. Every storm, every drizzle, every grain of that organic snow finally coming to rest in the one place built to hold it. Ligeia Mare, the second largest, sits further north still, closer to what would be Titan's pole, and it is here that Cassini made one of its strangest and gentlest discoveries, something researchers came to call, almost affectionately, the Magic Island, a bright patch that appeared on radar images and then, on later passes, seemed to have shifted or faded, as though the sea itself were breathing. The leading explanation is almost disappointingly ordinary, and yet somehow more wondrous for being so. Rising bubbles of nitrogen gas, or waves catching the radar at just the right angle, or fields of suspended solids drifting near the surface like slow constellations. Nothing frightening. Nothing that should tighten your chest. Only a sea, doing what seas do, shifting its light very slightly, the way curtains sometimes seem to move even when no one has touched them, caught in a draft too soft to name. Smaller than both, and closer to Titan's equator-facing latitudes, Ontario Lacus is more of a lake than a sea in scale, but it carries its own quiet distinction. It was the very first of these liquid bodies confirmed. The first proof that the raindrop you followed down through the haze truly does arrive somewhere, truly does pool and rest, rather than simply evaporating back into cloud. Its shoreline shows the same soft evidence of shrinking and refilling that a real lake shows across real seasons, evaporating a little during Titan's decades-long summer, replenishing a little during its long, slow winter, breathing on a calendar so unhurried that a single one of its seasons outlasts most human lifetimes. It is a small window, low in the house, easy to miss if you were only looking at the grand orange sweep of the whole world from above. But small windows are often the ones worth lingering at. None of these seas exist in isolation, and this is the thread worth following now, back the way the raindrop came. Every sea needs a source, and radar images show, running down toward each of these dark basins, branching networks of channels, tributaries, valleys, drainage patterns unmistakably carved by liquid moving downhill over long stretches of unhurried time. The same shapes rivers on Earth carve into their own landscapes, echoed here in an entirely different material. Near Ligea Mare especially, one such channel has been given its own name, Vid Flumen, a river hundreds of kilometers long that geologists studying its images describe as looking almost exactly like a stretch of the Nile seen from orbit. The same lazy bends, the same patient carving, the same unmistakable signature of liquid that has been finding its way downhill for a very long time. Seeing that resemblance is a small, quiet kind of comfort, proof that some patterns are simply what liquid does, wherever in the solar system you happen to find it, whatever it happens to be made of. Somewhere upstream of Kraken Mare, somewhere feeding Ligea's northern shore, methane rivers are running right now, this very moment, in the same low orange light, over ground that has never once felt a human footstep. You don't need to picture anything dramatic. No rapids, no roar, only a low continuous murmur of liquid finding the lowest path available, the way a house settles into its own quiet sounds after everyone inside has gone still for the night. If the seas are the dark rooms where a lantern's reflection would first show itself, the rivers are the hallways leading toward them, unhurried and dim, and lined with whatever the land itself is made of. And it's those hallways, those carved channels, and the ground beneath them, that deserve your attention next, as we trace the liquid, methane playing water's old familiar part, back upstream toward the land that shaped it. Follow one of those rivers upstream now, back away from the dark seas, back through the deltas where the methane finally lays itself down and rests. Follow it up into the highlands where it began, as nothing more than a thread of moving light, cutting a path through pale terrain, the way every river on every world seems to know the same patient trick: find the lowest way down, and keep finding it for longer than any watching eye could measure. From orbit, these channels look almost like a memory of home, branching, forking, gathering themselves into single trunks the way rain-fed rivers do on Earth, the way water has always written its intentions into rock. Except here, the water that fell was never water at all. It was methane. Cold enough to be liquid at nearly 200 degrees below the freezing point we know, and it carved these valleys with the same unhurried persistence, one thin cut at a time, across spans of years too long to hold in a single thought. A different liquid, the same grammar. The land remembers the shape of flowing things no matter what was flowing. Radar images taken from orbit show these channels in a density that surprised even the scientists who had spent years imagining them. Some run short and stubby, ending abruptly where the land simply stops sloping downward. Others stretch for hundreds of kilometers, joining smaller tributaries the way capillaries join into veins, feeding at last into the dark seas already left behind upstream. There are channels shaped like feathers, channels shaped like the branches of bare trees seen from far above, channels that double back on themselves in lingering, looping meanders exactly the way a lazy river bends across any wide floodplain on Earth. A meander does not care what liquid is doing the bending. It only cares that the liquid is patient, and that the ground is patient too, willing to be reshaped one whisper at a time across a span of years longer than any single storm could ever manage alone. And in January of 2005, something reached down into that memory and touched it directly. The Huygens probe, after its long fall through the orange, came to rest on a floodplain, and the camera on its underside sent back a photograph that still feels almost impossible to hold. A scatter of rounded stones, smoothed and tumbled, lying across the ground the way stones lie across any dry riverbed you might have walked barefoot as a child. They looked like river pebbles because that is precisely what they were, except that on Titan a pebble is not made of quartz or granite. It is a fragment of water ice, tumbled and rounded not by liquid water, but by liquid methane. Worn round the same way any hard thing is worn round by any patient current. An unhurried polishing, 1,000 small collisions smoothed into a single tender curve, until the stone forgets every sharp edge it was ever born with. The physics that shapes a pebble does not care what it is shaping, or what it is shaping it with. Give it enough time and enough gentle motion, and it will always arrive at the same rounded, familiar answer. Scientists studying that single photograph noted how ordinary the scene would look if you simply erased the caption, a dry channel bed strewn with cobbles of every size, the smaller ones nested between the larger ones, the whole arrangement sorted by weight and current exactly the way a real stream sorts itself, heavier stones settling where the flow once ran strongest, lighter ones carried farther before they were finally set down and left. It takes a moving liquid to sort stones that way. It takes years of it, decades of it, arriving and receding, before an unsorted scatter becomes an arrangement that looks, to any river-trained eye, like the aftermath of an actual flood. Somewhere on Titan, in the low hush after a passing rain, methane really did rise over that plain and really did recede again, leaving behind exactly what a retreating river leaves. The ground beneath those stones told its own quiet story. When Huygens settled onto the surface, the instruments recorded something like a soft crust giving way beneath a firmer layer underneath. The texture, engineers said afterward, of damp sand, or of a crust of something like crème brûlée, cracking thinly over a yielding interior, not powder, not stone, but that particular in-between consistency that damp ground holds after rain, the kind that takes a shape and keeps it, that would hold the print of a footstep if a footstep were ever there to leave one. It is a small, strange comfort, hearing that the first solid thing an alien probe ever touched in the outer solar system had a texture human hands would recognize on sight. The way we know, instantly, without thinking, whether a beach is wet enough to sculpt. But do not mistake softness for fragility, because underneath that yielding surface layer, Titan's bedrock is anything but soft. Out here, more than 1 billion kilometers from the sun, water ice is not a fragile thing that melts in a closed hand. It is rock. At these temperatures, ice loses every trace of the gentle, meltable substance we know from a glass on a warm table and becomes something closer to granite, hard, load-bearing, structural, patient enough to hold up mountains. The crust of this moon is built from a material we normally associate with delicacy, and yet here it forms cliffs and ridges and the sturdy floor beneath the dunes. Indifferent and immovable, the way stone is always indifferent and immovable, no matter what it happens to be made of underneath its name. Ice, on Titan, has forgotten how to melt easily and remembered instead how to hold weight. Think of what that means for a moment. Turning it over the way you might turn over a stone in your palm before setting it back down. Every mountain range on this moon, every canyon wall, every steep flank rising above the dune fields is standing on a foundation of something you could hold as a cube in an ordinary freezer back home. Only here, compressed by cold and time and its own patient stillness, that same substance has taken on an entirely different character. Brittle where you would expect it, fragile. Load-bearing where you would expect it to give way underfoot. It is a reminder that hardness and softness are never fixed properties of a thing itself, only of the conditions a thing happens to be resting in. Warm ice melts at a touch. Cold enough ice becomes the mountain. This is the quiet trick behind everything Titan shows us close up. A landscape that is uncannily, almost tenderly familiar, built entirely from unfamiliar ingredients. Rivers, but of methane. Pebbles, but of ice worn like stone. Bedrock, but frozen so completely it forgets it was ever ice at all. It is as if some careful hand had taken every shape water and stone make on Earth, the braided channel, the rounded cobble, the packed and holding ground, and rebuilt each one faithfully using entirely different materials, the way you might recognize a familiar room by its furniture, even through a curtain, guessing the shape of a chair or a low table from nothing but its outline pressed against the fabric. You would know it was a chair. You simply could not say, from that silhouette alone, what it was made of, or how it would feel beneath your hand. Titan offers us exactly that kind of knowing. Shapes we recognize instantly, materials we would need to touch to understand it all. And perhaps that is worth sitting with for a moment before we move on. The idea that a landscape can be a translation rather than a copy. That the universe seems to have only so many ways of letting a river find the sea. Only so many ways of rounding a stone. Only so many ways of building ground that holds a footprint and rock that holds a mountain, and it will reach for those same solutions again and again on any world with the patience to let liquid fall and flow and settle. Titan did not need to resemble Earth. Nothing required it. And yet here it is, an entire moon quietly rhyming with home, written in a foreign material, its meaning somehow still legible through the orange veil. Now let this ground fall away beneath you, unhurried, the way sleep sometimes lifts you without your quite noticing the moment your feet last touched anything solid. Titan's air is not thin like the memory of air at a mountain's summit. It is thick and low and generous, pressing gently up from below the way water presses up beneath something that floats. You do not need to hold on to the rounded stones or the packed and holding sand any longer. The atmosphere itself is waiting to catch you, patient and buoyant, 4 times denser than the air folded around Earth, ready to carry weight the way deep water carries weight, cradling rather than resisting.
Let the riverbed recede below. Let the last pebble blur into distance and orange haze. There is a kind of ground you can rest on that is not ground at all, and Titan, it turns out, has been holding it open the whole time, just above the surface, waiting for something, anything, to be lifted into it and simply, slowly, held. And now that your feet have left that ice-hard ground, there is nowhere to go but up, into the thick amber air that has been waiting the whole time to hold you. Here is the part of the night where you stop walking altogether. You do not need your legs anymore. On Titan, gravity is only 1/7 of what pulls at you on Earth, a whisper of the weight you know, barely enough to keep a teacup resting on a table, while the air around you presses 4 times denser than the air over your own bed at home. Those two facts, laid side by side, describe something almost too generous to be real. A world where a person wearing nothing more than simple wings strapped to their arms could rise on their own effort and truly fly. Not glide for a moment before falling. Fly. The unhurried way a heron works a river at dusk, sustained rather than straining, held aloft by the sheer patience of the atmosphere itself. So let that be what happens to you now. Let your arms lengthen into something wing-shaped in your mind, and let the ground fall away beneath you without any fear attached to the falling. Because here, falling and floating are almost the same motion, and neither one costs you anything. Feel how the air takes you. It is not thin the way high mountain air is thin, not something you have to fight for with every breath. It is closer to water, dense enough to lean on, dense enough to cup your whole body the way a warm bath cups a body that has finally stopped bracing against anything. This is the sensation worth resting inside for a while tonight. An atmosphere so substantial that it behaves less like sky and more like an enormous, unseen ocean turned to gas, one that a floating body simply rests upon without ever trying. You already know this feeling in smaller versions, the moment you let your back settle into a pool and the water decides, without asking you, to hold you up rather than let you sink. Multiply that trust by 4. That is the air over Titan tonight. That is what is under you now, thick and tireless, and endlessly willing to bear your weight. There is nothing required of you here. No task, no destination, no reason to kick or paddle or steer toward anything at all. You are being carried, and carried is a tender word, softer at the edges than flying, because it asks nothing back from you. Let your hands open. Let your shoulders drop from wherever they have been living, up near your ears, down to where they actually belong. Imagine the low orange light of this whole strange sky settling over your skin like something poured rather than shone. Warm in color, if not quite in temperature, because true warmth here comes only from the thickness of the air holding you, not from any sun. You do not have to hold your own weight. Titan is doing that for you, patient and unblinking, the way a held breath is patient, the way a hand cupped gently under a sleeping child's back is patient, present, load-bearing, never once announcing itself. Below you now, the orange deepens towards something darker, and you understand, without being told, that this is one of the great seas, perhaps the widest one in the northern reaches, though it hardly matters which. What matters is only that it is there, stretched out beneath you like a held note, its surface holding almost no motion at all. From this height, it looks less like liquid and more like a sheet of dark glass laid carefully across the land. And the little light that reaches this far down through the haze finds it and rests there instead of scattering, the way faint light rests on a floor rather than a rippled pond.
You drift above it without hurry.
There is no wind pushing you forward, only the vast, unhurried current of the air itself, carrying you at its own pace, the way a river carries a leaf that has long since stopped resisting the water beneath it. This is the moment to notice the thread that has run through everything so far tonight. The house at the end of the long street, its windows wrapped in orange curtains, a lantern that might already be lit somewhere behind that fabric. From up here, carried and weightless, you are close enough to see the whole shape of that house at once, its roofline the curve of the horizon, its curtained windows the seas spreading dark beneath you, each one catching what little light survives the haze and holding it. The way a drawn curtain holds a tranquil warmth of color, even when you cannot see the flame that makes it glow. You are not being asked to find the lantern tonight. You are only being asked to notice how the light moves across the fabric as you pass overhead, low and even, unbothered by your passing. The way a lit window looks the same whether or not anyone happens to be walking by outside. Let the drifting continue at whatever pace it wants. There is no clock here, no need to arrive anywhere by a particular hour. The whole idea of hurry belongs to a different, heavier world, one you have, for now, set down and left behind on the ground far below you. Feel the specific, unfamiliar ease of a body that barely has to work to stay aloft. Muscles you did not even know you were clenching, finally allowed to rest. Because the atmosphere beneath you is doing 7/8 of the labor gravity usually demands of a body. This is what it might feel like to be held by an entire moon at once. Not gripped, not caught, simply supported. The serene way settled water supports whatever floats on it, without ever asking why or for how long. Notice, too, how sound behaves inside this thick air, because thickness changes everything it touches. If you spoke here, your own voice would arrive low and rounded, softened by all that extra weight of nitrogen pressing against it. The way a voice sounds when it travels through a closed door rather than an open room. There is no wind loud enough to rush past your ears because you are moving with the air rather than against it, matched to its pace the way a leaf is matched to the current that carries it. Every motion you make out here, the slow tilt of an imagined wing, the turn of a shoulder toward the seas below, feels padded, cushioned, arriving a half beat later than it would at home, as though the whole moon has agreed to slow its clock down to something a tired body could actually follow. You are not working to stay up. You are only remembering, again and again, that you do not have to. You pass low over another sea now, its far shore lost somewhere in the amber haze, and you let your hand, if hands exist at all inside this kind of imagining, trail just above the surface without ever quite touching it, the way a hand might trail above a lake from a boat that never needs to set its weight down. Nothing about this drifting requires your attention or your effort. You could close your eyes here, and the air would keep you exactly where it has already decided to keep you, exactly as faithfully as it has been keeping you since your feet first left the ground behind. There is a particular kind of rest that only comes from being carried by something larger than yourself, something that does not tire, does not hurry, does not need you to do anything at all but be present inside its hold. And this dense, orange, endlessly patient air is offering you precisely that kind of rest tonight, freely, the way it has been offered to nothing human until this moment of imagining. Let the sky begin, very gently, to lower you. Not fall. Nothing here truly falls, not really, just lower, the way a held breath eventually, without any struggle at all, becomes an exhale. The dark sea beneath you rises to meet you at its own drowsy pace,
and you let it come, curious rather than afraid. Because you already know that whatever waits at the surface of Titan is only the beginning of what this moon has been keeping. Beneath that mirror, still water made of things that are not quite water at all, beneath the pale crust of ice that holds it inside its wide stone bowl. There is somewhere even further to go, a deeper room behind these curtains, a lower floor inside this house at the end of the street. Something Titan has folded away far beneath everything you have drifted over so far tonight. The air sets you down without a sound, and the descent does not end at the surface. It continues, low and unhurried, downward, through the ice itself now, toward whatever Titan has chosen to keep at the very bottom of its long and lingering quiet. And still, the drift continues downward, through the ice, past the frozen bedrock that only moments ago felt like the floor of the whole world. And you find that the house at the end of the street has a basement too, one that no window has ever shown from outside. This is where the descent leads tonight, not into darkness exactly, but into something held, something kept. Because for a long while, this was thought to be the end of the story. A moon of ice and orange haze, its curtains drawn, its rooms accounted for. Nothing beneath the floor but more cold and more stone. Then a spacecraft did something almost too quiet to notice. It simply fell toward Titan again and again, on pass after pass, and let itself be pulled. Every time a spacecraft swings near a moon, that moon's gravity gives it the faintest tug. A whisper of acceleration too small to feel, but not too small to measure, if you are patient enough. And the instruments aboard Cassini were exactly that patient. Across a dozen careful flybys, stretched over years, scientists timed the spacecraft's radio signal down to fractions of a fraction of a second, watching for the tiny stretch and shrink in its pitch as Titan's mass pulled it forward and let it go. Nothing about the method was dramatic. It was closer to listening for a heartbeat through a wall. No drama in the act itself, only a very long, very careful kind of attention. And the pull did not match a moon of solid ice all the way down. It matched something looser, something that could shift and slosh, something that responded to Saturn's tides the way a bowl of water responds to being carried across a room rather than the way a stone would. Titan, it turned out, breathes with the tide as it swings closer to Saturn and farther away across its 16-day orbit. Its whole shape rises and falls by tens of meters, far more than solid ice could ever allow on its own, more, even, than Earth's oceans rise for the moon. Something underneath the crust is loose enough to let that happen. Something underneath the crust is liquid, and it has been flexing to that same slow tidal rhythm for longer than there have been continents on Earth. Picture the ice shell of Titan not as bedrock all the way down, the way it seemed from the ground, but as a lid, a floor above a floor, a roof above a room nobody has ever seen. Beneath it, scientists now believe, lies a global ocean of water, salty and dark, wrapped entirely around the moon's rocky core, buried under perhaps 80 or 100 kilometers of ice. It never sees the thin orange sun. It has never felt wind. It is a sea inside a shell, older than the curtains above it, patient beneath the weather, beneath the dunes, beneath the methane rivers that carve their careful paths overhead without ever suspecting what moves below them. And if you let yourself sit with that shape for a moment, ice on the outside, water in the middle, stone at the heart, you may notice it is not so unfamiliar. It is close to the arrangement scientists now suspect for several icy moons across the outer solar system, the same hidden architecture that keeps this kind of promise tucked inside so many sheltered worlds. Titan simply happens to be the one wearing curtains on top of it as well. A lantern and a second, deeper lantern, one behind the other. This is why Titan, of every place drifted toward tonight, gets to hold two separate hopes rather than one. Down in that buried ocean, if life exists there at all, it would very likely resemble something almost recognizable. Water-based, chemistry-based, built along lines not entirely unlike the life that fills every warm sea on Earth, only sealed away from starlight, running instead on heat and minerals seeping from the rocky floor beneath it. The way certain dim corners of Earth's own deep ocean manage without sunlight at all. Whole communities of creatures that have never once needed a sky. That alone would be a wonder worth resting on. An entire second biosphere folded into a moon most people have never heard of, glowing nowhere, announcing itself to no one. But up above, on the surface itself, in those lakes of liquid methane and ethane traced earlier tonight, scientists have allowed themselves to imagine something stranger still, a second, entirely different kind of life, built not from water at all, but from the very liquid that fills Kraken and Ligeia. They have even given its imagined architecture a name: azotosomes, tiny membrane-like structures that could, in theory, hold themselves together in liquid methane at -179 degrees, the way our own cells hold themselves together in water, using nitrogen-rich molecules instead of the fatty, water-loving ones that build every membrane we know. The idea began almost as a thought experiment, chemists asking simply whether the physics would even allow such a membrane to hold its shape at that temperature, in that liquid, and finding, to their own faint surprise, that it might. Nobody has found one. Nobody has proven such a thing could ever truly assemble itself from Titan's chemistry, let alone grow or feed or make a copy of itself the way anything we would call alive eventually must. It exists, for now, only as an idea sturdy enough to survive the physics. A shape of life the cold and the methane would not immediately forbid, held out at arm's length, neither embraced nor dismissed. And then there is one small, careful observation from Titan's surface that nobody has fully explained, and it deserves to be held tonight exactly as gently as it was first noticed. Cassini's instruments, reading the chemistry of gases near the ground, found less hydrogen there than models predicted, as though something at the surface were quietly using it up rather than letting it drift by untouched. Around the same patches, acetylene, a molecule that ought to be drifting down steadily from the high, hazy chemistry above, settling like faint confetti onto the dunes, seemed thinner near the ground than expected too, as though something there were consuming that as well, taking it in rather than letting it simply accumulate the way plain chemistry alone would predict. It happens that these are almost precisely the ingredients a very slow, very cold, methane-based metabolism would need to breathe, if such a metabolism could exist at all. Hydrogen taken in, acetylene taken in, methane perhaps produced in their place, a whole unhurried exchange running at a pace too faint for any instrument to watch directly. Scientists were careful, and remain careful, to say this proves nothing. Chemistry alone can explain missing gases in a dozen mundane ways, through reactions on grains of surface ice, through processes with no life required anywhere in the story. But the numbers lined up closely enough, in exactly the pattern something living might leave behind, that the observation earned its own faint footnote in the record. Not a discovery, not a signal, just a glow the shape of a lantern, seen for a moment through fabric too thick to say for certain what is behind it, there and then gone again, before anyone could be sure they had seen it at all. So tonight, You are allowed to simply hold both possibilities at once, without needing either to resolve. A world with an ocean folded inside its ice, dark and salty and old, that may or may not cradle something alive in the warmth near its stone floor. A different world layered directly on top of it, with lakes of liquid gas that may or may not hold membranes built from nitrogen instead of water, sipping hydrogen from the air the way we sip oxygen without ever thinking about it. Two entirely separate chances for a lantern, one lit deep beneath the curtains, and one lit within the curtains themselves, neither one confirmed, neither one denied. Both simply possible in a way that very few places anywhere else in this solar system get to be. There is no need to decide tonight which is more likely, or whether either is true at all. It is enough to notice how large this lingering possibility is, an entire hidden sea and an entire hidden chemistry above it, both waiting the same unhurried way they have waited for 4.5 billion years, in absolutely no rush to be found. Let that largeness settle over you the way the ocean settles under its own ceiling of ice. Unbothered, unmeasured by anything so small as an hour, there is something almost restful in a mystery this patient, one that has kept its own secret since before there were eyes anywhere to wonder about it, and will go on keeping it at exactly the same unrushed pace, whether you are awake to think about it or already asleep. And if something is alive down there, in that dark water, or up here, in that cold orange air, it is not living on anything like your clock. Its whole sense of time would barely resemble a heartbeat at all. Sit for a moment with how large and how quiet that possibility is, this ocean folded under ice, this second unlit room we have only just learned to imagine. And from there, let the numbers arrive without weight, the way distant facts do when they no longer need to alarm anyone. Out at Saturn, the sunlight that reaches Titan is only about 1% of what falls on your shoulders on an ordinary afternoon here. The sun itself, from behind that orange veil, is no longer a warm disk you could not look at directly. It is a bright star among other stars, small enough to hold between two fingers, dim enough to gaze at without blinking. Imagine that light. Not darkness, not absence, but a permanent dusk. A house lit by a single star-sized bulb through curtained windows, everything inside washed in a low, amber undertone that never brightens and never fully fades. If a lantern were burning behind those curtains, it would not need to compete with daylight. It would only need to be steady, and steadiness, on Titan, would look nothing like the quickness we know. If life exists there, in the cold dark room of the ocean beneath the ice, or in the stranger, shallower room of the surface, where azotosome membranes might hold together in liquid methane instead of water, it would not live at our tempo. It could not. Every chemical handshake that happens instantly in a warm human cell, every reaction your body performs 1,000 times a second without your notice, would happen achingly, magnificently slower in that cold. A single metabolic step, one small transaction of energy that in you finishes before you finish the thought of it, might unfold there across what your heart would call an entire season. Spring given to a single breath in. Summer given to nothing but the beginning of a single exchange of molecules. Autumn arriving before that exchange resolves. Winter closing around its completion. What we experience as a heartbeat, a creature there might experience as the turning of a year. It would be easy to hear that and feel the old worry rise, the instinct that says unhurried means small, means less, means something to hurry past. Let that worry go, here, tonight. That lingering pace is not a failure to keep up with us. It is simply a different agreement with time, one made necessary by cold and made possible by patience the universe seems to have in endless supply. A being that takes a season to complete what we complete in a heartbeat is not straining against its world. It is perfectly, unhurriedly suited to it, the way you are suited to your own pace of breath, your own hour of sleep. There is no clock on that ocean floor counting down, no deadline pressing against the ice. There is only the long, unbroken sentence of chemistry, written at whatever speed the cold requires, with no one waiting for it to finish. If anything is alive down there, it is not straining. It is simply, patiently, being. Think of what a single day would even mean to something living at that pace. Titan's own day, one trip around its axis, already stretches to nearly 16 of our days. Locked to its patient orbit of Saturn, the way our own moon is locked to us. A creature whose metabolism moves at the speed we've imagined would barely notice that long day passing at all. It would be a flicker, a single frame in a much longer reel, gone before the first stirrings of one thought had finished stirring. What we call a lifetime might, to such a being, be a lifetime built from a few dozen of these vast, unhurried steps, each one a season, each season folded into the next without any sense of hurry, because hurry is a human invention, built for hearts that beat 100,000 times between sunrise and sunrise. Out there, if a heart exists at all, it would beat perhaps once across an entire winter, and that single beat would be enough. It would be whole. And there is something in that lingering pace worth borrowing for yourself, right now, in your own bed, in your own dimming room. You do not have to finish anything tonight. You do not have to arrive anywhere before you're ready. Somewhere out past Saturn's rings, if the lantern is lit at all, its light is moving at the pace of seasons, and nobody out there is rushing it. You are allowed the same mercy. Let your own thoughts ease into that tempo, unhurried, low, taking as long as they need to settle. Now let the scale of the thing settle over you too, because this is where the vastness stops being something to brace against and becomes instead something closer to a blanket. Titan is one moon, one single moon, small enough that Saturn's other satellites orbit alongside it unnoticed, small enough to vanish into a sentence about its parent planet, and yet folded inside that one moon are two entire separate possibilities for life. A hidden salt ocean, tens of kilometers down, patient and vast beneath the crust. And, resting above it, an entirely different kind of chemistry moving across the lakes and dunes. Hypothetical, faint, unproven, but plausible enough that careful people have spent careers taking it seriously. Two whole oceans of possibility, stacked one atop the other, wrapped in curtains, orbiting a ringed planet that is itself orbiting a star that is itself one of hundreds of billions in a galaxy that is itself one of countless others. And you, hearing this from your bed on a small blue world 1.5 billion kilometers away, are smaller still. Let that smallness feel like what it actually is, not exposure. Not the kind of smallness that leaves you standing alone in an open field with the sky pressing down. This is the other kind. The smallness of being one lit window on a street that runs farther than anyone could walk. One house among countless houses, each with its own low lamp glowing behind its own curtains, none of them needing to be the brightest, none of them needing to be seen from very far away to be real. Being small, out here, does not mean going unnoticed. It means being tucked in. It means there is so much room around you that nothing has to press against you at all. A universe this large does not have to look at you to hold you. It holds you simply by being big enough that you are never the one thing everything else depends on. You get to just be here. Small, warm, breathing, held. Think of the street itself, stretching further than the eye could ever follow, house after house after house, each window its own small, honest glow, and yours no dimmer or less important for being one among so many. You were never meant to light the whole street by yourself. No single window has to. That is the hushed arithmetic of a universe this size. It spreads the burden of being remarkable across so many small lamps that none of them ever has to strain under the weight of it alone. Titan's two oceans do not have to prove anything to justify existing, tucked as they are beneath ice and haze, unseen by nearly everyone who has ever lived. And neither do you, tucked as you are beneath blankets, unseen by the vast street outside your own window tonight. Existing tenderly, at your own scale, in your own room, is already the whole of what is being asked of anyone, out there or in here. And so nothing about tonight's question needs anything from you. Not an answer, not a decision, not even a guess held firmly. Whether the ocean under Titan's ice is truly alive, whether some patient, cold, azotosome-walled thing is out there completing its lingering metabolic sentence somewhere along Krakenmare's dark shoreline, none of that depends on you staying awake to find out. The lantern will still be there, lit or unlit, whether you are conscious to wonder about it or not. You do not have to keep watch. You do not have to solve the house at the end of the street tonight, or any night. Really, you are permitted, fully and without condition, to let the question rest exactly where it is, a soft shape in the dark, unfinished, unthreatening, patient as the moon it is asking about, while you drift off with no obligation to resolve it. Rest without knowing. That is allowed. That has always been allowed. And maybe, as your own thoughts start to loosen and blur the way they do right before sleep finally arrives, a smaller and drowsier question floats up in place of the first one. Not about Titan now, but about us. How did creatures this small, this brief, tucked onto one modest world, circling one modest star, ever learn to ask about a lantern behind curtains 1.5 billion kilometers away in the first place? How did hands this size, lifetimes this short, come to measure the sway of ice under Saturn's pull, or catch the faint chemical signature of a possible metabolism from so very far off? It seems almost too large a thing for beings our size to have ever attempted. And yet, somehow, patiently, across centuries, someone kept looking anyway. And it is a fair question to fall asleep inside. How did creatures as small as us, standing on a rock so far from that orange-curtained house, ever learn to ask about a lantern behind glass 1 billion kilometers away? The answer is not a single mind, and not a single night. It is centuries of people doing the same small, patient thing over and over, looking up, writing down what they saw, and handing the looking to the next pair of eyes. You can let that answer settle over you like a blanket someone else has already warmed. None of it required urgency. All of it required only return. Begin in the Netherlands, in the March of 1655, in a room lit by nothing more than candle flame and curiosity. A young astronomer named Christian Huygens has built his own telescope, ground his own lenses by hand, patient work measured in weeks rather than minutes, and he turns it towards Saturn on a clear night, the way you might turn toward a window you've been meaning to look through for years. Saturn itself is already strange enough, a planet wearing what looks like arms, or ears, some kind of shape astronomers of the time cannot agree on. But beside it, small and steady, Huygens notices something else. A point of light. Not a star. Because stars do not travel with a planet across the sky, night after night, holding their position like a companion rather than a backdrop. This point moves with Saturn, keeps its distance, circles it slowly the way a moth circles a flame it is in no hurry to reach. Huygens watches it return night after night, plots its position, and understands, with the quiet certainty of someone who has simply looked carefully enough for long enough, that he is watching a moon. He names it, in the plain Latin of the age, simply Saturni Luna, the moon of Saturn. It will take other astronomers, working in the centuries that follow, to give it the name we use now, drawn from the giants of old myth, Titan. But the naming comes later. What matters, on that March night, is that a point of light has been noticed, and a note has been made, and the note does not disappear. It waits. Discovery, this early in the story, looks almost nothing like arrival. It looks like a single steady dot recorded in a logbook by candlelight, the first thread laid down in a weave that will not be finished for 350 years. For a long while after Huygens, that dot stays exactly what it appears to be: a point. A mathematical fact, a body whose orbit can be timed and whose size can be estimated, but whose surface remains completely unknown. Telescopes improve slowly, generation by generation, each one gathering a little more light, resolving a little more detail, and still Titan gives up almost nothing. Astronomers across those long years learn to time its orbit precisely, learn to weigh it by watching how its gravity tugs, ever so slightly, on Saturn's other moons, learn even to guess at its size well enough to notice, eventually, that it must be a giant among moons, larger than the planet Mercury itself, though still it offers no picture, no surface, no color beyond its own faint amber tint. It sits there beside Saturn for nearly 300 years as pure geometry, a mass, a period, a distance. No weather, no hint of the curtain's texture. Only the fact that something hangs behind that particular point in the sky and orbits with a patience that matches our own watching. One lantern in an unlit hallway, waited on by generation after generation of the same unhurried curiosity. Then, in 1944, in a war-lit world otherwise occupied with far less peaceful business, an astronomer named Gerard Kuiper turns a spectroscope toward that same faint point and does something no one has done before. He asks not merely where Titan is, but what surrounds it. A spectroscope splits light the way a prism does into a rainbow of separated wavelengths, and within that rainbow, certain colors go missing, in patterns as distinctive as a fingerprint, because certain gases absorb certain wavelengths and no others. Kuiper studies the fingerprint coming off this small moon of Saturn and finds, unmistakably, the signature of methane. And methane, to have a signature at all, needs something to carry it. A moon with nothing around it would give back a fingerprint of bare rock or ice, and nothing more. What Kuiper has found, without ever getting closer than his own observatory on Earth, is evidence of air. Titan becomes, in that quiet moment of pattern reading, the first moon anywhere in the solar system known to be wrapped in an atmosphere of its own. A little world with a sky. It is a strange thing to realize about a place you have only ever seen as a point of light, that above whatever ground lies down there is weather, there is haze, there is something to breathe through, even if nothing yet is known to be breathing it. The curtains, we might say now, have just been proven to exist. Their fabric has not yet been touched, not yet been seen. But Kuiper has confirmed, from tens of astronomical units away, that a fabric is there at all, thick enough to leave fingerprints in starlight. Decades pass in the ordinary way decades do, full of other discoveries, other missions, other points of light drawing other astronomers' attention elsewhere. In those middle years between Kuiper's fingerprint and the first close approach, a few scientists allow themselves to wonder out loud about what that methane air might be hiding underneath. Whether a moon this cold, wrapped in a sky this thick, might even carry lakes or seas of something liquid, though no one yet has any way to check. It remains speculation, the gentlest kind, offered and set back down, waiting the way everything about this story waits. And then, in November of 1980, humanity's fastest machine yet built arrives close enough to Titan to finally look it in the face. Voyager 1 has been traveling for 3 years by then, threading a route past Jupiter and now Saturn, carrying cameras built to resolve continents and canyons on distant worlds, cameras that had already, months earlier, revealed the fine detail of Jupiter's storms and the strange volcanic surface of its moon Io. Engineers on the ground planned Titan as one of the mission's central goals. This moon, larger than Mercury, wrapped in its mysterious methane air, seems like exactly the kind of place where a camera built to see continents ought to see something extraordinary. So Voyager 1 bends its own path, sacrifices its chance at a future flight past Uranus and Neptune, all to come close enough to Titan to finally part those curtains and look inside. And the curtains do not part. Voyager 1's cameras, some of the sharpest ever sent into the outer solar system, return image after image of the same smooth, featureless, softly glowing orange. No continents, no canyons, no dark seas, no pale ice fields, nothing but haze reflecting sunlight back at the spacecraft with the even, self-contained calm of a lit lampshade. The fastest machine we had built, aimed as precisely as engineering allowed, comes right up to the house at the end of the street and finds the windows exactly as bright and exactly as unreadable as they were from every point along the long approach. It is, in its way, one of the gentlest disappointments in the history of exploration. Not a wall, not a void, not an error, just fabric doing exactly what fabric does, holding its color, keeping its secret, entirely unbothered by how close we had finally managed to come. Voyager 1 sails on, its Titan flyby complete, its curiosity about the surface entirely unsatisfied, carrying nothing home but a portrait of a curtain. And here is the part worth resting on, before we go any further into the story. None of this, not Huygens' first dot of light, not Kuiper's fingerprint of methane, not Voyager's beautiful failure to see through the haze, none of it was wasted. Each one added a fact without needing an answer. A point of light became a moon. A moon became a world with air. A world with air became a world whose air keeps every secret perfectly. 3 different centuries of patient people, none of whom would live to see what came next, each handing forward exactly what they had managed to learn, satisfied to have added one true thing to a light we still could not enter. There is something almost restful in that lineage, a chain of careful hands, none rushing, none needing to finish the story themselves, only needing to leave the next hand a little more to work with. We spent centuries, in other words, learning to love the curtains themselves, learning to find the orange glow beautiful precisely because it refused to explain itself. The way you might grow fond of a house on your street long before you ever learn who lives inside it. It would take one more kind of visitor, patient in an entirely different way than a telescope or a flyby, to finally do what none of these could, Not just glimpse the curtains from a distance, and not just brush past them at speed, but settle in close, orbit for years, and let an actual probe descend through the haze itself toward whatever waited on the other side. And so the house stood there for 24 more years after that first hurried glance, its curtains drawn, its street empty of visitors, while back on the small blue porch we call home, engineers began sketching something braver than a flyby. Not a glance through the window as it passed, but a knock at the door. In 1997, a spacecraft called Cassini leaves Earth carrying, folded against its side like a letter tucked inside an envelope, a small saucer-shaped probe named Huygens, after the very astronomer who first spotted this house of light beside Saturn more than 3 centuries earlier. The journey takes 7 years. 7 years of drifting through the dark between planets, patient in a way that has nothing to prove. The spacecraft trading gravity with Venus, with Earth once more for a parting glance, with Jupiter, learning the shape of the outer solar system by feel before it ever reaches the street where Titan waits. Cassini arrives in 2004, slips into orbit around Saturn, and immediately begins doing what no visitor had managed before, looking past the curtains rather than merely at them. It carries radar, and radar does not mind haze. It sends a low murmur of radio waves down through the orange fog and listens patiently for the shape that answers back, the way a hand might read a room by touch alone with the lights off. Where the earlier flyby saw only a smooth, sealed glow, Cassini begins to trace coastlines, one pass at a time, one long orbit after another. Over the 13 years that follow, orbit after orbit, more than 100 close passes, it builds Titan up the way a hand might trace a face in the dark, one contour at a time, until the seas we have already wandered beside tonight, Kraken, Ligia, the smaller hidden lakes, resolve out of the murk with their shorelines, their river deltas, their scattered islands. It finds dunes combed by patient wind. It finds channels that only flowing liquid could have carved, branching the way a hand's veins branch beneath skin. It is not looking through the curtains so much as learning to read the shapes the lantern casts against the fabric, season after long Saturnian season, until the house that once seemed featureless has floors and furniture and rooms. But Cassini stays outside, circling, watching from the street. It is the little letter riding along with it that means to go in. On Christmas Day of 2004, Huygens separates from Cassini and begins its own hushed fall, 3 weeks of solitary drifting through the dark toward the orange light growing larger ahead of it. And on January 14, 2005, it reaches the top of Titan's atmosphere and begins to descend, a small craft the size of a household table, entering at tremendous speed and then, mercifully, easing. A parachute opens. For 2.5 hours, Huygens sinks through Titan's sky, and if you could ride down with it, unhurried, held, you would watch the featureless orange outside your window resolve by degrees into weather and shape, haze thinning into cloud into something like open air. The first hints of a landscape assembling itself beneath you the way a room takes form as your eyes adjust after a door, swings open onto darkness. Winds push the little probe sideways as it falls, the way a draft might stir a curtain before anyone has touched it. Somewhere in that long fall, a microphone aboard the craft records the first sounds ever captured from another world's air, the low hush of Titan's own wind sliding past the descending probe, a faint and private sound that had been playing to no one for 4.5 billion years. Its other instruments taste the atmosphere as it falls, nitrogen, methane, the same chemistry we traced earlier tonight, now measured directly, molecule by molecule, by something that has actually gone inside. And then, at last, it lands. Not a crash, not a violent arrival, but a tender, settling onto ground the consistency of damp sand, exactly as the pictures would later show. A landing so unhurried that engineers watching the data stream back on Earth, more than 1 billion kilometers away, could almost picture the faint thud of it, a visitor setting its whole weight down on a threshold no machine had ever reached before. It is the first landing ever made on a world in the outer solar system, farther from the sun than any spacecraft had ever touched down. For just over an hour, before its batteries fade, Huygens keeps speaking, sending back the first photographs ever taken from Titan's surface. Rounded pebbles of water ice lying where a lazy current once rolled them smooth, a hazy orange sky pressing low overhead. The hush of a place that had waited billions of years for a single hour of company. It is, in the truest sense we have tonight, humanity's hand finally parting the curtain, not tearing it aside, not flooding the room with light, but easing the fabric back just far enough to see what shape the furniture makes in the dim glow already sitting there. The signal fades, as all first visits must. Huygens falls silent, resting now where it landed. A small, quiet shape on a shoreline it helped us see for the first time, its work folded gently into the record, and done. But Cassini keeps circling for 12 more years after that, folding new radar passes into old ones, watching storms gather and drift across the equator, watching the lakes hold their surfaces impossibly flat beneath skies, where a single season lasts as long as 7 Earth years. It watches Titan breathe in its own unhurried, patient, geological way until 2017, when Cassini's own long mission ends, not with a return home, but with a final, deliberate descent into Saturn itself. A graceful closing of one visit, so the wonder of it could stay uncontaminated for whatever comes next. A last, careful bow on the way out, the porch light switched off behind it, so the house could keep its secrets a little longer. And something does come next. In the 2030s, a mission called Dragonfly is due to arrive, not an orbiter circling at a polite distance, not a single probe drifting down once and settling for good, but a rotorcraft, something almost like a patient, curious insect built of 8 low rotors, meant to lift off from Titan's thick, buoyant air the way we imagined drifting through it earlier tonight, and fly, dune to dune, shoreline to shoreline, resting for weeks between flights to taste the chemistry of wherever it has landed before, lifting off for the next. It will go to more than one room in this house, ranging over many kilometers across several Titan years. It will linger at each threshold, breathe in the air, note what it finds, and drift onward down the street, checking, unhurried, for any trace of the glow we have wondered about all evening. Not proof, not an answer, just another patient look at whether the lantern is lit. There is something almost tender in the shape this whole history takes when you lay it end to end. A point of light noticed beside a ringed planet in 1655. A hint of air detected, unseen, 3 centuries later. A spacecraft passing by too fast to do more than glimpse a sealed orange glow. Then, by degrees, across only the last few decades, footsteps growing lighter and more careful even as they draw closer, an orbiter learning to read shapes through haze, a small craft actually setting its weight down on the threshold, and next, a flyer meant to move from room to room the way you might wander a house at night without waking anyone inside it. Each mission a more deliberate step down the same long hallway, none of them barging through the door, none of them needing to. That has always been the discipline of this kind of looking, not urgency, but devotion stretched across a human lifetime, and beyond it, the watching duty passed from one generation to the next, the way a candle is handed from one cupped palm to another, without ever going out. And so, for now, we come to stand once more where we began, outside the house at the end of the street, its windows still draped in that same low orange, the glow behind them neither confirmed nor denied, only patiently, endlessly there. Whatever answer waits behind that fabric, water-loving cells stirring in a hidden sea, or unhurried methane chemistry breathing at the surface, or simply chemistry alone, beautiful and unalive, it is not an answer we need tonight, or perhaps ever, to feel the particular hush of standing this close to a lit window we have not yet been let all the way inside. The looking itself has already been enough, each mission its own small kindness laid at the doorstep. Rest here a while longer at the foot of that long street, the porch light of an entire moon glowing low and orange above you, patient as it has always been. And let the questions settle the way a held breath finally settles into sleep, unanswered, unhurried, and entirely safe to leave exactly as it is. Tonight has been about arriving, easing down through an orange veil thick enough to hide an entire world, and finding that what waits underneath is not frightening at all, only patient, only dim and orange and softened at the edges, like the last lamp left on in a house you trust. Tonight has been about shores of another rain, about seas that are not water and hold their shape anyway, about weather that falls slower than any rain you have ever felt on your own skin, tracing rivers into ground so cold it forgot how to hurry. Tonight has been about the lantern question, about an ocean tucked far beneath the ice, about chemistry that moves in ways ours never does, and about how we still do not know, and may not know for a long while yet, whether some small light is already lit down there, waiting the way a lantern waits behind a curtained window. Content either way, needing nothing at all from you tonight. Tonight has been about the patient watchers, about years and years of careful hands parting that curtain a little further each time, a radar sweep here, a lander there, a signal drifting home across more than 1 billion kilometers, until a place none of us will ever visit began to feel, somehow, familiar. None of this needs anything from you tonight. Not your attention, not your memory, not even your belief. The moon will keep turning whether or not you follow it into sleep. The methane rain will keep tracing its unhurried rivers whether your eyes are open or closed. You can simply let it happen somewhere else, far off, while you rest here. If your eyes have already closed, that is exactly right. Another quiet exploration is already waiting on the screen, queued up and ready, and you do not have to do a thing. Let it begin on its own. Let its voice pick up right where mine leaves off. A low hush carried into whatever comes next. And if one thought is still drifting through you, let it be only this. Nothing to answer, only something to loosen into. If that lantern really is lit behind Titan's orange curtains, what do you imagine it feels like, down there, to be so faintly, so patiently alive? You do not need to answer. You do not need to do anything at all. Let your breathing find its own unhurried rhythm, in and low and out again, no counting required. Let your eyelids rest their whole weight down. Let the room around you go faint at the edges, the way that far-off moon goes faint behind its own veil, present and unreachable, and perfectly safe. Somewhere out past Saturn, a curtain stays drawn, and it is not yours to open tonight, and it never needed opening. It can simply stay there, lit or unlit, patient behind orange fabric, while you drift further than any spacecraft ever has, down into rest. Sleep well.